You're listening to Midweek Politics with Dave Pakman.
Hey, welcome back to the show. We talked last week about the disparity between thoughts on Richard Reid, the shoe bomber, and how he was tried, and the underwear bomber, Abdul Muttalib. And I have continued, Lewis, to try to figure out the difference and why it is that people were so angry about the suggestion that Abdul Muttalib would be tried in a U.S. federal court, whereas there was zero complaint when the same decision was made during the Bush administration about shoe bomber Richard Reid. And there's been a number of things said about why there was that difference, none of which are true. And when I say none of them are true, I don't mean that that's my opinion. I mean, literally, it is just things that are not true. The first of which is Newt Gingrich. He was on the Jon Stewart show, and he said the difference is Richard Reid was a U.S. citizen. Take a listen.
You've got to keep focused.
No, I know. I'm trying. If you had gone to him and said,
why don't we make sure, because he lived through Jimmy Carter sending prisoners to Arkansas, which helped getting beat in 1980 for re-election.
Right.
And he understood that there are certain things the American people have an aversion to, like trying to try terrorists in New York City, which is the place the terrorists tried to destroy. And that the American public doesn't understand reading Miranda rights to terrorists in Detroit when it's fairly obvious they're terrorists.
The only thing I would say to that is, didn't they do the same with Richard Reid, who was the shoe bomber?
Richard Reid was an American citizen.
But he was read his Miranda rights.
But this administration announced several months ago.
Okay, and then he skips right over it, not another mention. It's just not true. Richard Reid was not an American citizen. Reid was born a British citizen in Bromley, South London, to Leslie Hughes, who was of white English descent, and Colvin Robin Reid, whose father was a Jamaican immigrant of African descent. He was a British citizen. So we can rule that one out. Okay, what other reasons have been cited in this incredible grasp to explain why there was not even the turning of a head when Richard Reid, the shoe bomber, was tried in a U.S. court, and at the same time outrage over the suggestion that we might try Abdul Muttalib, the underwear bomber, in a U.S. court? Well, Monica Crowley tries to claim the reason was military tribunals just didn't exist in 2001. Here's Monica.
We absolutely know that Abdul Muttalib has been cooperating with the FBI interrogators since he was read his Miranda rights. So again, it looks like the Republicans are looking for something to play politics on.
Well, there are some unanswered questions here.
Monica, just 10 seconds.
Sure. There are some unanswered questions here, Julian. Is Abdul Muttalib answering questions or cooperating because he got a plea bargain? Also, Richard Reid was matriculated into the civilian justice system because military tribunals did not exist in late 2001, and the only reason we got a conviction in the Moussaoui case is because he pled guilty.
Monica. Let me repeat that. Military tribunals did not exist in 2001. Well, military tribunals, as a matter of fact, have been around in the U.S. for a long time. They've existed since the Revolutionary War. Even more so, Supreme Court long ago set the precedent in 1866 that military tribunals used to try civilians in any jurisdiction where the civil courts were functioning were unconstitutional. Meaning, if there is a civil court where the trial should be, where the crime took place, using a military tribunal would be unconstitutional. Without even getting into that, because I know that will bring out all of the pseudo-legal scholars that listen to the show, and I know there's many, to say that military tribunals simply did not exist in 2001 is a flat-out lie. Now, Crowley might even claim she actually meant that Guantanamo Bay, where terrorism suspects bound for military tribunals have been held since 9/11, wasn't operating at the time. But again, in fact, terrorism detainees began arriving at Guantanamo Bay October 7th of 2001, more than 2 months before Richard Reid's arrest on December 22nd. Not to say that that is the explanation Monica Crowley would give, but if she did, even that wouldn't be valid. So I just don't understand.
Well, I think it's pretty well known. I'm sure it just came out wrong that military tribunals existed, You think
Monica Crowley, she meant something else? Or she simply didn't know?
I'm sure she probably meant something else.
But what else could she mean? She could have meant that it was Guantanamo Bay, but again, I've just explained even that would have been wrong.
I don't know. Just speculating.
I hear you defending Monica Crowley here.
I wouldn't go that far.
Well, what we do know is the facts have never been a deterrent for right-wingers intent on bashing President Obama. They have been a deterrent for those who want to have a reasonable discussion about the merits and the pros and cons to a trial in a U.S. civil court or in a military tribunal. But for those who are just looking to take anything they can and criticize President Obama, the facts have certainly never gotten in the way.
He's related to a known terrorist, for one. He is friends with a terrorist of this country.
He must support terrorists. You know, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it must be a duck. And that, to me, is Obama.
Okay. So
I know that when it comes to the law, facts are easily confused.
In what sense?
Or perhaps misread, misinterpreted.
So what you're saying, I don't want to misquote you, Lewis, because the audience, and we'll get here for their emails later, they don't like it when I put words in your mouth. That seems to be the new pet peeve.
Nor do I.
With the audience. What I hear you saying is that while Monica Crowley may have said something that sounds to not be true, in the legal, technical sense, she may have been saying something that was accurate. Maybe they weren't called military tribunals in 2001 or something like that. Is that what I hear you saying?
I don't know if that's what was going through her mind. I'm saying it's a possibility.
Okay, fair enough. Well, speaking of safety, security, and wars, remember Dick Cheney? I know we couldn't find him while he was vice president, but now he's everywhere. He's saying that Obama and Biden, or O'Biden, as he called him the other day, should be thanking Bush and Cheney for the war in Iraq. It's incredible to say that someone should be thanking anyone for the war in Iraq, but that is what Dick Cheney is saying, and here's how he said it.
Okay, before we get to Eric Holder, a couple more things from the vice president. He's been out responding preemptively to you. One thing that he said, we heard in the open, that he believes Iraq may ultimately prove to be one of the greatest achievements of the Obama administration.
Well, I guess I shouldn't be surprised by my friend Joe Biden. I'm glad he now believes Iraq is a success. Of course, Biden and Obama and Biden campaigned from one end of the country to the other for 2 years, criticizing our Iraq policy. They opposed the surge that was absolutely crucial to our getting to the point we're at now with respect to Iraq. For them to try to take credit for what's happened in Iraq strikes me as a little strange. I think if
so, let me paraphrase, Lewis, for our audience what's going on. Dick Cheney is saying that Barack Obama and Joe Biden are now trying to take credit themselves for the incredible victory and triumph and great thing that Iraq has been.
Well, that's nonsense. I mean, if they're going to get credit for anything, it's going to be
for getting us out of the war.
Right, for fixing, the problems they inherited.
Which, by the way, has
not happened yet. Right. I mean, we'll see.
But it is incredible. On what planet could Dick Cheney be saying that the Iraq war has been such an incredible success that now Barack Obama and Joe Biden, who were against this war over the last few years and in their campaign, are taking credit for the incredible success that it was? And we know there are people who want us to think that Bush is responsible for an incredible success there.
Major combat operations in Iraq have ended. In the Battle of Iraq, the United States and our allies have prevailed.
Remember that. And that was what, 6 years ago? Something like that?
Yep, around there.
So Dick Cheney, again, saying, darn Obama and Biden trying to take credit for the miracle that Bush and Cheney orchestrated in Iraq. Remarkable.
Those guys are also butting heads. I read an article that said that Joe Biden claimed Dick Cheney's trying to rewrite history.
Right.
By shedding good light on the Iraq War. And
they have been going back and forth.
I think it's a little too early to start doing that.
It's too early, and it just makes no sense on a number of levels that we can't even begin to discuss today.
Fair enough.
This episode of Midweek Politics has been made possible in part by Just Coffee Cooperative, fair trade coffee from around the world roasted daily at justcoffee.coop.